You want to know what the top 10 pros and cons of living in the greatest state in the nation are? We are going to take a look at those top 10 in a two-part series. This is the top 5 pros and cons, but just remember our cons might be better than your pros. Welcome to Idaho. Let's go. We're gonna dive into those top 10 pros and cons of living in Idaho, but before we do, I want to say a quick thing. I am Brian Hymas, if we don't know each other by now. If we do know each other, you'll recognize the new space here. This is a fun new office we have, and this is where we'll be doing the next filming. So, of course, if you're interested in moving to Boise, there is no greater compliment that I can receive than a phone call, text, or email from you at the number or the email on your screen. I would love to help you out. Boise's a dream for me. I was born and raised here. I appraised homes here, and now I sell homes. And a top 5% producer here in the Valley. I absolutely love what I do. I love making content about Boise for you to enjoy and get to know Boise, because many of you that I'm talking to have not been here yet. And this is a great opportunity for you to see and feel. Most of the pictures and videos you see are from me actually filming, so it's actual real footage. It's not just stock camera footage that we throw on there. It's real stuff. This is Boise, this is Idaho. So we want you to get to know and like and feel Boise and Idaho. In this video, it's gonna be all about Idaho. And we'll focus a lot on Boise because Idaho has many parts. Has eastern Idaho, has central Idaho, has southwest Idaho, which is Boise. It has northern Idaho, which is like Coeur d'Alene area. It has southern Idaho, which is Twin Falls. But really about, half to even more than that, the population is right here in the Boise Valley. So we're gonna spend some time there as well. A quick plug to subscribe and click that bell to get notifications when new videos come out. And let's dive into the top 10 pros and cons of living in Idaho. Number 1, let's talk about the job market here in Boise. So Boise is growing, but not only that, they are actually opening up hundreds of jobs as we speak. A week and a half ago online, the city of Boise released 280 jobs. Now that's just the city of Boise. Boise is growing, the job force is growing. There's tech here with Clearwater, there's Micron, there's HP. We have some grocery store hubs here. The Winco and Albertsons were both started here and their headquarters are both here. There are jobs that actually are quite available. Right now in Meridian, there's something like single-digit forbearance homes. I mean, because people have jobs, people are able to pay for their homes. This is a good place to find a job. Now, people have complained that this would be the con, that the jobs are not keeping up with the pricing in the homes. And while that is true to a point, there's also a point where people are starting to increase their pay here. I have seen that firsthand. I've talked to a lender who he says that is happening over and over. He gets to see those statements over and over and over again. So that is actually something we're seeing come up. So it's a pro because there's a lot of jobs. Con is the pay is not quite there. I would agree on a blanket statement. If you were to take all the averages, that's probably true. While at the same time, we're starting to see employers having to increase their pay. I mean, you can't go to anywhere and not see $15 an hour starting. And that used to be something you'd see for like a secretary at the front desk or something, right? Now it's McDonald's. And nothing against McDonald's, nothing against the secretary, but those are just the facts. When you put that into a professional skilled laborer, we're actually having a shortage of those skilled labor jobs. And so just like anywhere, get your training, you will have a job. Number 2, the pros and cons of housing in Idaho. Now, the most expensive real estate in Idaho is, do you think it's Boise? It's Sun Valley. Sun Valley is home of millionaires, right? Many celebrities and famous people have their spots up in Sun Valley. Many names that you know. If you haven't heard of Sun Valley already, it's a place where celebrities come and get away. It's their own little private get away from the public eye area. Sun Valley is the most expensive, but then if you were to go from us normal people, you'd be talking Boise's the most expensive, downtown Boise is the most expensive, then Eagle and Southeast Boise. Northern Idaho has some expensive real estate, especially in the Hayden area, and Eastern Idaho has some expensive real estate in the Ammon area. Idaho Falls is a little bit lower than Ammon. Ammon is the Eagle to Boise, Ammon to Idaho Falls. According to the data we have, it's up on your screen. You can see those median home prices. You can also see the median days on market as well. The pros are that our equities are growing, and that's been awesome. For people who got here 5 years ago, 2 years ago, our equities are way up. For people who are moving here now, you're not just moving here because the prices are low. That used to be the situation, but now people are coming here because it's a conservative America. It's somewhere you want to escape to. You might consider yourself a political refugee. You might have a job transfer here. You might have family here. I don't know what your situation is. Most people who talk to me are trying to escape their situation where they're tired of being regulated a little bit too much. And so that's very normal to feel that way. Many people are coming here, many people want to come to Idaho and make it stay Idaho, and that's important to us. I mean, I'm born and raised here. It's super important to me, and people on my channel will give me in the comments and say how that I'm just trying to take advantage. No, I'm not trying to take advantage. I'm trying to share the good word about Boise, that it's still a conservative place, and we want to keep it that way. And I think most people, most people I talk to want to keep it that way. This is what conservative America is, and we want to keep it that way for our children, for their children, for us, for everyone. Number 3, we're gonna talk about Idaho's weather. Now, there's going to be pros and cons of each area of Idaho, and there's also pros and cons of our weather in general. You can't find an area in Idaho where it doesn't snow. There are places where it snows more. The areas that snow more are northern Idaho, eastern Idaho, central Idaho. The areas where it doesn't snow as much is almost exclusively the southwest Idaho area. Now, while data flashes on your screen or is on your screen showing you exact temperatures of averages for different parts of eastern Idaho, central Idaho, the Boise area, southwest Idaho, and northern Idaho, that data is data. You can't argue with data. But what is hard to see with these averages is that it's an average. So you're taking Driggs, which is like terribly cold in the winter, I'm talking -10, going to average that out with its summer, in the 90s. Like that an average doesn't really give you anything. And so just know that in the winters in eastern Idaho, and I've told this story actually on these videos a ton. And when I was driving home from Island Park, it was windy. I mean, sagebrush was just windy. Our car was getting moved by the wind. And all of a sudden, about 5-10 minutes outside of Boise, the wind stopped. I don't know what is about Boise, but it's not as windy here as it is in central and south and southern and eastern Idaho. Northern Idaho, can't speak for the wind there. I can speak for the snow. It's beautiful up there. It's Lake Coeur d'Alene, it's pine trees. Reception on your cell phone's a little harder to get. So working from home and internet can be, if it's internet you need for cell phone coverage, sometimes that can be a little sparse. I've seen those complaints come through. Generally speaking, Idaho gives you quite a different variety. There's weather in the summer to go rafting, camping. There's weather in the winter to go snow skiing or cross-country skiing or snowmobiling. I mean, it really, and it's hunting in the fall weather, and it really is a great variety, and that's the problem with the averages. Also in the summer, let's talk about the pros and cons of summer. So, I mean, the best place in the summer is eastern Idaho. I mean, it's just a touch cooler than the Boise area, and then it just never gets extremely hot. Now, there are exceptions for sure, but Boise can get 100, 105 for a couple weeks, and sometimes it's 3 days in the summer, sometimes it's a few weeks in the summer of that 100 area. But Idaho Falls, Rexburg, you're looking at more like the 90, 95 as pushing the highs. But then in the winter, you get those more extreme lows, by 10 or 15, 20 degrees. Moscow can actually be a little hotter in the summer, but it's very cold in the winter. Moscow and Coeur d'Alene and Hayden, Bonners Ferry up north, shout out to my brother. Those are areas that are a little bit cooler. But they're so beautiful. I mean, Boise is more in a desert. And when you get outside the desert, you have to be, it's 45 minutes to pine trees. When you're up in northern Idaho, it's pine trees. When you're in eastern Idaho and Island Park, it's pine trees. While at the same time, it's a beautiful landscape in the eastern Idaho area. If you're looking to move to eastern Idaho or northern Idaho, I actually have colleagues that you can reach out to me and I can give you the information. They can help you buy and sell out there too. And we work together and have joint interests in things that happen in different areas of the state. But for Boise, I mean, I am so biased. I think Boise's got the best weather in Idaho, but I'm also born and raised here. So take that bias, and take what I've just given you about different areas in the state and try to figure out what's for you. And before we move on to the next subject, let's talk about cons for the weather in Idaho. Springtime through middle of the summer can be pretty horrific for people who have allergies. I have allergies, I have hay fever, and I usually just take a little pill and it goes away, but not always. Not always. It can be pretty terrible when you're just sneezing and runny nose, itchy eyes for the whole day. So that's one thing to keep in mind. Also in the Boise Valley, we have a thing called an inversion. Colder air comes down to the valley, warmer air goes on top and traps the air on the bottom, thus kind of keeping all the exhaust and air in that little system. We had one this year. It was like about a half-day inversion, and someone told me like, oh, inversion's here, and I was like, oh yeah, it sure is, and then the clouds cleared up and the inversion was gone. So it can be anywhere from a half day in the winter. We've had them up to like 3 weeks where it just feels like pure clouds for 3 weeks straight, and you don't really notice the exhaust in the air or anything because Boise's not like LA. but you do notice that it feels like it's foggy and cloudy for a good few weeks straight, if that inversion lasts that long. Number 4, the recreation in the state of Idaho. Because of the weather that we just talked about, we have so many good opportunities for recreation. We have hiking, fishing, biking, golfing, hunting, skateboarding, ice skating, rafting, skiing, ice tubing, boating, which includes wakeboarding and skiing, paddle boarding, bird watching, and so many other activities that I have not mentioned. In Boise area, we have a thing called the World Center for Birds of Prey. It's actually pretty cool. You go out there and see raptors, you can see condors, you can see eagles, all sorts of birds out there that you can go view in flying over in the air. And you can also have a couple exhibits where they bring in a guy who's got that glove, right? And they like perch on his hand. They've trained them to feed off their hand or whatever they do. It's pretty cool, it's pretty neat, especially like birds. I love birds. I've been out there for a few years. I probably need to get out there again, but it's pretty cool. There are so many parks in the state of Idaho. There are ordinances that make it so that you have to have an elementary school or a park in neighborhoods. And so when something new is built, there is a grassy area or there is a school that kind of gives a more communal, safe place and feel. So that's pretty cool about a lot of areas. There's a ton of parks in Boise area that I know. There's so many. There's the Settlers Park. There's Eagle Island State Park right by me. There's so many parks. I mean, there are so many parks. Don't forget the Greenbelt. We have about 20 miles of river with 30 miles of walking paths along the river. That is super beautiful in the summer to have opportunity to go rafting down the Boise River, which is more like a little lazy stroll. I've seen people drunk off their rockers going down with no problems at all. Like it's really hard to get in any danger. The Payette River, Salmon River, Loxaw River up north, those are rivers that you do not want to be drunk in the slightest. They are awesome rivers for rafting, whether it's rafting or kayaking. Kayaking takes some pretty skilled kayakers to go down those because these are not easy runs. I would never go in a kayak on those. I'm just not there yet by any stretch of the imagination. In fact, I'm probably not even good enough to go down the Boise River in a kayak, so don't let that be your metric. Now, the cons of Idaho's recreation. If you're coming from a place with oceanfront property, there is no oceanfront property here. I'm sorry, we do have riverfront, we do have some lakefront. No oceanfront. There's no ocean here, and there's no sports teams, professional sports teams. We obviously have Boise State, we have Idaho State in Eastern Idaho, we have Northern Idaho College in Coeur d'Alene, we have U of I in Moscow. There are a few options for you, CSI in Twin Falls. There is great entertainment you can have for sports, but when it comes to professional sports teams, the best thing we have is minor league teams in the Boise area. That would include the Boise Hawks and Idaho Steelheads. Rumor has it soccer's coming. The G League moved from Boise to Salt Lake. That was the Stampede. We do not have any football team. We just have Boise State football, which we obviously, where's that at? We actually love quite a bit. So we don't have any pro sports teams, but we love Boise State. Up north, they love U of I. Back in the day, Boise State and U of I had a huge rivalry. And in Eastern Idaho, you've got ISU, which is they compete in Big Sky. They do pretty well as well. Number 5, the transportation in Idaho. Pros, population is low. Getting to point A from point B is fairly easy most of the time. There are a couple exceptions, like for example, Eagle Road in Boise, Meridian area, that can take a 20-minute commute from Eagle to South Boise, South Meridian to a 40-minute commute. That's rare. It's usually like a 35-minute commute. It adds a little bit of time. We're not talking about stop and go freeway traffic, hardly ever. And then obviously, in the smaller towns, there's not a lot of traffic. But when it comes to public transportation, that is a huge con. Some people are looking for that. But public transportation is a huge knock on Idaho in general. Not a ton. I know my brother-in-law and father-in-law use the bus system to head downtown. It would, I think, come every 30 minutes. We're not talking about huge interweaving subways or trains or buses. There's a few bus routes, quite a few bus routes, but that's about it. And then to get from southwestern Idaho, which is Boise, to eastern Idaho, very easy. There's a freeway that does that. But to get from Boise to North Idaho or eastern Idaho to northern Idaho, it's actually quite a trek. And you can't go direct. There's a ton of mountains. I mean, that's the beauty of Idaho, is the central Idaho is like untapped. No man can go there and develop. I think it's public land, so you can't do that, but which is good and bad. To go 100 miles north is fairly easy to go from Boise to McCall on the highway. After McCall, to get to Coeur d'Alene it's not as fast moving highway. It's 55 miles an hour and 65 and down to 45. It's actually faster to go through Tri-Cities, Washington to go to Coeur d'Alene than it is to go straight up through the winding highway, straight up through Idaho. So some of that transportation can be an issue if you're wanting to move around the state of Idaho. And then also the con, like I touched on, is that there's not a lot of public transportation. If you want pros and cons 6 through 10 about living in Idaho, you're gonna want part 2 of this series. That is in that video there, and you can go watch that now. We're gonna talk about shops, we're gonna talk about stores, we're gonna talk about groceries, we're gonna talk about schools, we're gonna talk about a lot more, so go click that video right there so that you can watch the top 10 pros and cons of living in Idaho. And remember, if you are thinking about moving to the Boise Valley, there is no greater compliment that I receive than a text or a phone call or an email from you letting me know that you're wanting to start that process, or you're in the middle of that process, or you got a job transfer, or you're wanting to get out of your state ASAP because of Big Brother or whatever it might be. If you have that desire, please do text, call, email. That is the greatest compliment, and I love to work with you. We'll get you in the easy buying process, the easy peasy 1, 2, 3 buying process of buying in Boise, and we'll get you set up so you don't miss out on any homes, so you don't overpay for homes, and that we're as efficient as possible, because we don't want to see all 8,000 homes in the market, right? We want to be efficient. We want to make sure we don't miss out on any homes. So that's what we'll do for you. It will join that easy buying process so that you can get into a house efficiently and be happy to make Idaho your home.